With all the new technology and the abundance of information on the web, you would think that buying or selling or understanding the real estate market would be easier than ever. But ask yourself one question. Now that you've done your homework and you think you know what's going on, what do you do next? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to What Do You Do Next? Just kidding. What I said on the beach really applies to the subject matter we're going to cover today. And that is that there's so much information on the web. There's so many apps and there's so many websites that pretend to be experts. And in fact, in many cases, they're very misleading. And one of the bigger ones is one I'm going to pick on a little bit today. The one that you're all familiar with is Zillow, and they are monumental in their scope of marketing and providing different tools for the real estate market. And I wanted to get into a little bit about how they work and how they actually, in many cases, can be sort of misleading. And we as realtors have to deal with it every day. It's our job. We accept that. But I wanted to sort of give you a behind the scenes picture of how this particular vendor works and probably relates to a lot of the ways that other vendors work. So anyway, welcome everyone. It's 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and as you know, every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, I have a video blog that talks about the real estate market, specifically about strategies. There's so much information on the web that we try to get away from the normal amount of or the normal venues and type of information that you can get readily. What we like to talk about here are maybe even the myths or misconceptions about what you're seeing on the web. And we do it for about 10 to 15 minutes every Tuesday at 10 a.m. This is Facebook Live. My name is Stewart Fournier. I'm an 18-year veteran here in Los Angeles, specifically the beach areas, Manhattan Beach in particular. And I've been doing this for a long time. My wife and I, Randy, have practiced for well over 35 years. So we bring to the table a lot of experience. And today's subject is really particularly close to us because we've watched the evolvement of the internet and how it's affected the way things are practiced by you, the consumer, on the internet from the very beginning almost. Believe it or not, real estate, unfortunately, was one of the last industries to really embrace the internet. I know that sounds very archaic, but it's the truth, and there's a lot of history there, which I'm not going to get into. But the history has led to a lot of misconceptions and a lot of variables that I want to explain today in detail so you get an idea of our function when it comes to sites like Zillow. Before I do, again, as I said, this is Facebook Live, and I'm encouraging you to participate. I don't in particularly because of the program that we use, I can't see who's out there looking. But if you ask a question, I do get it on my screen, and I can actually pose it right on the screen so everyone can see it. So let's get started. Let's talk about Zillow. I'm going to do a little promo here because getting people to answer questions are a little intimidated, so I'm going to give a little bit of an incentive here, so I'll keep that up for just a minute. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Zillow. Now, first question, how many of you think that Zillow is a real estate company? That is to say, how many of you, raise your hands if you think so, how many of you think that Zillow can sell a house? Okay, I can't see you. But the truth of the matter is that Zillow has done an incredible, successful job at posing themselves as real estate experts. And therefore, most of the public, I want to say at least 90% of the people that I've polled with that question have said, well, yeah, they're a real estate company. Well, you know what? The fact of the matter is that they are not. They're not a brokerage here in California. I think they maybe have brokerages throughout the country and other states and particular regions, but I know in California, at least as of today, they are not a brokerage. And why does that matter to the consumer? Why does that matter to you? Well, the reason that it should matter to you is that they are one step removed from the same ethical concerns that an actual association that we all belong to, the National Association of Realtors, and locally I belong to the South Bay Board of Realtors. Zillow does not have an obligation to follow the guidelines, follow the sense of fairness, follow the sense of, like I said, ethical concerns about the information they give. They are simply a platform to advertise our listings. And they also do off-market listings, and from what I understand, they also do for sale by owners, which are not connected to us. In all fairness, it's necessary for me to mention that. But a majority of, and I mean a big majority of their business relies on us, the realtors, to provide information that they then parlay into an advertising platform. Nothing wrong with that. However, here's the thing. The reason that Zillow got started doing that, or the reason they were so phenomenally successful at it, was because they came out with, as you all well know, a thing called the Zestimate. Now, the Zestimate, at the time, I believe it was 2004, 2005, to be able to get the value of your home right on the internet in a matter of seconds, or not even seconds, actually, it just appears right on the screen itself, was a tremendous marketing advantage. In other words, we didn't have things like that on the internet yet. We were still wet behind the ears on all that we could do with the internet. And so what happened was Zillow basically got a head start on all of us in terms of the marketing aspect, that is, the idea that you had the ability to do that. But here's the thing. One of the things that we were concerned about from the very beginning, and to this day, frankly, it hasn't changed very much, was the accuracy of those estimates. And they were called into question a long time ago. And in my opinion, this is strictly my opinion, trying to get myself into legal trouble here. In my opinion, they have always been inaccurate. So I get the question all the time, how, Stewart, can I rely on Zillow as an accurate measure of my house? And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, my personal opinion, my personal experience, is no. Frankly, no. And here's why. What Zillow does, and this is very briefly, not very complicated, but what Zillow does is they cost average the neighborhood. Now, as I said on a previous video, location is an extremely important variable in determining the value of your home. Now, I'm going to give you an extreme example of how far off some of these estimates can be. And this is a real extreme example, probably one of the most extreme examples we can find actually in the country. Now, I live in a town called Manhattan Beach. Now, on Manhattan Beach, in Manhattan Beach, that is, we have what we call strand properties, properties that are right on the beach that are anywhere from $9 to $20 million. Now, directly across, I should say directly behind this area called the Strand, is another set of houses. It's on Ocean Boulevard. And it's literally an alleyway between the Strand and the houses that are in the back. Now, what Zillow does, as for example, is they will cost average the houses in the front and the houses just directly across the street, which makes sense. However, from a marketing perspective, the difference between the houses on the front on the Strand and the houses just one alleyway across the street, literally probably 10, 15 feet, they can run from $4 to $8 to $9 million, as opposed to $10 to $12 million. So that's an extreme example of how just within a very short distance, pricing fluctuates like crazy. But what Zillow does is they cost average those two particular locations. And as you can imagine, it gives a very, very unrealistic perspective on how the pricing goes. Yes, I have seen on occasion Zillow, that's my dog in the background. I apologize. He's lonely out there. Anyway, I have seen Zillow off by, in some cases, 10 or 30%. On average, they are, in my particular experience, off by no less than 5 to 10%. However, God, that's distracting. Thank you, Jagger. Really appreciate it. Anyway, it must be an ambulance going by or something. But anyway, uh, the inaccuracy is very disheartening for us as realtors. And the reason that that's the case is obvious. Many times when we go on listing appointments, people have done their homework, as I said in the beginning of this video, and they've watched the market and they feel they have a good idea based on their Zillow estimate as to what their house is worth. And what we have to do as realtors, and it's not a problem, it's just sort of a misperception. And unfortunately, when you have a Zillow estimate that's really unusual on the high end, and you have to be, and it has to be explained to you that that's not necessarily the case, it's kind of disappointing. And so it's a shame that happens. But I want to tell you a little story that'll give you some perspective on the one company that's aware of this particular situation in the way that there is an accuracy that's consistent. And you know who that company is? You got it. It's Zillow themselves. Now, one day, many years ago, I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a sales representative on the phone. And the sales representative, after a lengthy discussion, said, to make a long story short, said, "Oh, Mr. Fournier, no, you have to realize that we're aware of our inaccuracies on Zillow. But you, as the neighborhood expert, can clear that up." So that's actually our marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy is to just pose a price out there and then have you, as the expert, because you're signed up with us and you're advertising with us, you as the expert get to go out and correct that information. Okay, so that's the business model when it comes to the accuracy. And here's the way that it actually works. Little inside tip. The way that it works is we as realtors go out and we get listings and we share them amongst ourselves. Now, what Zillow did many years ago was they simply put a portal into that information. And this is not your concern, but just so you know how this works. Basically, what Zillow does is after they get our information, which they get, by the way, for free, they then call us and they say, "Gee, would you like to have your picture posed next to your listing that we're going to put on the internet? And we're going to charge you for that." So we don't necessarily have, when you see those listings on Zillow and you see an agent's pictures next to it, that's not necessarily the agent that actually has the listing. I have to pay in order to put my picture next to that listing. And so therefore, that's their business model. So that's how it works. That's the information you're getting. Now, you may say, well, what do I care? I just want to call a realtor. I just want to sell a house. The problem with that, though, are two things. Number one, we have to clarify the actual value when you call the real listing agent, or your particular buyer's agent has to call the real listing agent. And number two, it does sort of mix the consumer up when they're trying to contact who they think is the listing agent. So there's a lot of confusion with that. You know, the bottom line is that we put up with Zillow because we have to. They're marketing geniuses. Let's face it, they're, multi-billion-dollar company. But there is a lot of inaccuracy. So what I would suggest, and this is one of the reasons I actually started this blog. I started this blog because I wanted to get the word out there about some of the things that are confusing you as the consumer. And I've gone on for a little bit on this one because it's one that got under my craw. I actually started this blog out of frustration from some of this kind of game playing. I'm just going to frankly call game playing with the consumer. But here's the thing. Here's the good news. The good news is that Zillow actually is kind of outdated at this point. We have a lot of tools that allow for us to give the same information, if not better and more accurate information than the outside vendors. Okay. Again, remember, Zillow takes the information from us, but we, as an association, have an obligation to each other to be as accurate as possible. And there are dozens and dozens of rules that we have to abide by. Any realtor, myself included, of course, can give you way more accurate information about house values and the way that that particular house is sitting on the market, what's going on. And we can do it also the same way Zillow does. It doesn't have to be a conversation with us if you're just in this stage where you're looking and you don't really want to talk to a realtor yet. We have the same ability to do that, and on an even more accurate platform. Now, almost every realtor has their own website, as do we. We're realestatebythebeaches.com. And I'm going to take that off and put this on. That's the right one. Okay, I'll get this in a minute. There we go, realestatebythebeaches.com. That's our website. And on our website, you can contact us and have us set you up for automatic updates on the particular properties that you're looking for. We can do it in general as well, but we can get more specific as to the actual properties you're looking for. And of course, if you're considering selling your house, we want to give you that information so you can see what's going on in your specific neighborhood. Now, we also have another option, and this is an option that I've talked about many, many times, or I've talked about at the end of every one of our broadcasts, and that is called our Fournier Fournier app that actually allows you to take a picture of any house in America, literally on your cell phone. Just go ahead and take a picture. Here's my daughter again. And get all the information about that home. But it starts out by giving you an estimate. Now, here's the best part about that app. The best part about that app is it's connected directly to our MLS. It's not an outside vendor. It's contacted directly to the association that we all share our information with, wherein we have to follow all the rules of accuracy. And there are, like I said before, dozens and dozens of rules. That's the most accurate way that you can get the information. And obviously, in this regard, it's actually much more advanced than Zillow is at this point. In fact, this particular app, as far as I'm concerned, is going to take over Zillow. It's going to take a few years because people have to download the app. And from what I've seen in my experience, that's kind of one or two steps that people don't want to take yet. But I think eventually they will, because it's so simple and it obviously makes things a lot easier. But here's the best part. The best part is you don't even have to take a picture. You can actually just punch in an address. If you're in Milwaukee right now and you want to know the address, and you have the address of something, say in Orange County, California, you can actually put that address in right now. The picture of the house that you're looking for will actually come up on your screen, and it gives you not only just an estimate on the price of that home, but it also will tell you the history of the home, the history of the sales of the home. It'll give you some public information about the home. It'll give you actually market analysis of all the rest of the homes in the area. It'll show you what houses have been sold recently and which houses have open houses. It gives you all the information that you can imagine right with just a click of taking a picture or the option of just simply putting in an address. So as time goes by, these things are going to get even more significant in their scope and make things a lot easier. For you millennials, I would think that that's a dream. And what we're going to do today is actually right off the broadcast, I'm going to put a link right in the comments section of our blog here. And let's see if I can get that down for you. And we will give you a coffee bean card for doing it. How's that? Now, Randy doesn't want me to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to get in trouble after this video. So if you actually download it, and we'll see if you download it, you get a coffee bean card today. Again, we're going to put the link right after the broadcast on this particular thread, and you'll be able to download it and get the information automatically. Now, here's even a better part of this. The better part of this is that you will have direct contact with Randy or I based on what you're looking at. Now, we won't see that you're looking at something, but in the app itself, you can talk to us real time. So if you put an address in right now and some information comes up about that house, or that neighborhood, you can ask us a question directly and we get it automatically and we can answer you back. Again, please don't when you access it, we won't see that you're on there. We will only see that you're on there when you ask us a question. So it's completely private. Didn't want to make that too complicated. Okay. So that's my sermon on Zillow today. Again, it can be accurate in some cases, but generally it's just not. To give you one more example before we go off the air, we recently had a condo that was really valued between $750,000 and $800,000. And the proof of it is that we put it on the market and we didn't get any offers for well over 4 to 6 weeks. However, Zillow had estimated it at between $950,000 and $1 million. So you can imagine the bad news that we had to impart to our seller when they saw that originally, and then we actually had to talk them down. And in relation to the fact that this was proven, we had it on the market at obviously a much lower price, and still it wasn't selling. So really, really question the accuracy of Zillow. It's best if you simply ask us what the values are and get a sense of it. And most realtors, like I said before, have the ability to do that fairly quickly. Today, we're giving it to you by putting the link down below so that you can get it almost automatically. In fact, what happens is when you ask for an estimate on a particular home and want to do a market analysis, not just the home itself, the report will actually be sent to you in a matter of minutes. You'll see that right on the screen, the ability to do right on the screen itself. Okay, so no questions, no coffee bean cards. I'm really getting disappointed, people. Anyway, we do this again and by the way, the question doesn't have to be related to Zillow if you want to ask one right now. We cover all of Los Angeles, in particular the South Bay region. So if you're considering buying or selling in the next few months or even the next couple of years, and you want a plan to put together what your goals are, we're happy to do that with you. Again, Randy and I are longtime veterans. We have done income property. We've done 1031 exchanges, residential, new home, new builds. We've done short sales. We've done almost all of it. And we're happy to impart our experience and work with you and make things a lot simpler. So that's it for today. Again, if you have a subject you'd like me to talk about, as you can see, I'm good at talking about it at length. I'm good at tearing it apart and giving you all the aspects of it. Happy to do it. Excited to do it, actually. So we'll see you next time, 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. Again, we do this every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. See you then. Bye-bye.